Amara never thought she would have a reason to question her best friend. Kemi had been part of her life for years. The kind of friendship that didn't need constant explanation. So when things between them started to feel different, she told herself it was just life-changing. Until someone mentioned something about Kemi that didn't match the person she thought she knew. And for the first time, Amara started paying attention in a way she hadn't before. Amara had always believed that loyalty was something you didn't question. It was something you felt. Something you saw in the way a person showed up for you, even in small moments. That was how she saw Kemi. Not just a friend, but someone who had been there long before things started to change in her life. Long before the new job, the new circle, the new version of herself she was still trying to understand. They met during their final year in school. Same department, same struggles, same late-night conversations about the future. Kemi had been the louder one, easier to talk to, quicker to laugh. Amara was quieter, more observant, but somehow they balanced each other. Even after graduation, they stayed close. Weekend visits, random check-ins, small support that felt consistent. When Amara got her new job, Kemi was one of the first people she told. "You deserve it," Kemi had said, smiling. "Just don't forget us when you start earning big money," Amara laughed. "You know I won't." At the time, she meant it. The job changed a lot of things, not in a dramatic way, just gradually. New responsibilities, new people, a different pace of life. She had less time, and sometimes, without meaning to, she replied late to messages or canceled plans. Kemi didn't complain. Not directly, but there were small moments Amara started to notice. Like the way Kemi would say, "You're always busy now," with a smile that didn't fully reach her eyes, or how she would joke about Amara's new life, but repeat it just enough times that it didn't feel like a joke anymore. At first, Amara brushed it off. It didn't seem like much. People adjust. Friendships shift. That was normal, so she tried to show up more. She started calling more often, even when she was tired. She visited when she could. She made an effort to include Kemi in conversations about her new life, but something about the dynamic had already started changing. One evening, they sat together at a small restaurant they used to go to during school days. The place hadn't changed much. Same chairs, same menu, same quiet music playing in the background. Kemi was talking about something, work, or maybe a colleague, but Amara noticed she wasn't really listening. Not because she didn't care, but because she was paying attention to something else. The tone, Kemi's voice sounded normal, but there was a subtle edge in the way she spoke. A slight sharpness whenever she mentioned anything related to Amara's job or lifestyle. "You people that are working in big offices now," Kemi said, stirring her drink. "Life must be soft," smiled lightly. "It's not that serious," Kemi nodded. "Yeah, I guess." Was a short pause, not uncomfortable but noticeable. Amara shifted in her seat. "How's your own work going?" Kemi shrugged. "It's fine, same thing every day." The conversation continued, but it didn't feel the same. It felt like they were talking around something neither of them wanted to say out loud. Later that night, as Amara got home, she sat on her bed, phone in hand, scrolling through old pictures. Photos of them laughing, eating, posing without thinking too much about anything. She paused on one particular picture. The two of them standing close, arms around each other, smiling like everything was simple. Amara stared at it for a moment longer than she expected. She wasn't confused about what was happening, she could see it. The distance wasn't sudden. It was slow, subtle, built from small things that didn't seem important on their own but started to matter when they added up. And what unsettled her wasn't the change itself. It was the feeling that no matter how much she tried to adjust, something between them wasn't returning to what it used to be. Few days later, something happened that made her pay even closer attention. She had introduced Kemi to one of her colleagues, Lou, during a casual meetup. It wasn't planned. They just happened to run into each other, and Amara thought it would be nice. Lou was easygoing, friendly, the type of person who could talk to anyone without effort. The conversation flowed naturally. They laughed. They exchanged contacts. At the time, it felt normal. Amara started noticing something. Kemi mentioned Lou more than she expected. At first it was casual. "He's actually funny. He seems like a nice person." Then it became more frequent. "He texted me yesterday. We talked for a bit." Amara didn't react much. It didn't seem like a big deal. People connect. That happens. But there was something in the way Kemi spoke about him. Not excitement exactly. Not even interest in the usual sense. Just a certain kind of attention. And without realizing it, Amara found herself listening more carefully than before, not because she was suspicious, but because, for the first time, she felt like she was no longer fully inside her own friendship. Amara didn't bring it up immediately. It didn't feel like something that needed confrontation. At least not yet. People talked. People connected. It wasn't unusual. Still, she found herself paying closer attention, not in a tense way, just more aware. Over the next week, Kemi's updates about Tolu became part of their normal conversations. "He called me this morning," she said one afternoon, casually scrolling through her phone while they sat together. Amara nodded. "Oh, okay. He was asking about you too," Kemi added, glancing up briefly. "About me?" Amara asked. "Yeah, just random things, how you're doing at work, stuff like that," smiled lightly. "That's normal," Kemi shrugged. "Yeah." The conversation moved on, but something about it stayed with Amara longer than expected. Not the words exactly, but the way Kemi said them. Calm, controlled, like she was aware of how it sounded. A few days later, Amara got to the office earlier than usual. The space was still quiet, only a few people around. She dropped her bag on her desk and was about to head to the restroom when she heard voices from the small lounge area near the corridor. She wasn't trying to listen. She didn't even realize she recognized the voices at first, until she heard her name. She slowed down, not stopping, just slowing. "She's always been like that," Kemi was saying. Amara's steps paused for a second before she moved slightly closer, not enough to be seen, just enough to hear clearly. "I mean, she means well," Kemi continued, "but she doesn't even realize how she comes across sometimes." Was a small pause. Tolu's voice followed. "How do you mean?" Kemi let out a soft breath. "Like everything is just about her growth now. Her job, her new circle, her plans. And if you don't match that energy, it's like you're just there. Stood still, not frozen, just still." Tolu didn't respond immediately. Then he said, "I didn't really see it like that." "Of course you didn't," Kemi replied, a slight laugh in her voice. "You just met her." Pause. "I've known her for years," she added, her tone softer now. "It's just different when you're the one adjusting all the time." Amara didn't wait to hear more. She stepped back quietly and walked in the opposite direction, her movement steady, controlled. Nothing about what she heard was loud. Nothing dramatic, but it settled in her mind in a way that didn't leave. Later that day, she acted normal. She greeted Kemi when she saw her. They spoke briefly. Nothing in Kemi's behavior suggested anything had happened. And that was what made it sit even heavier. Because now, Amara wasn't trying to guess anymore. She understood what was happening. Kemi didn't feel left out by accident. She felt replaced. And instead of saying it directly, she was expressing it in other ways, through small comments, through tone, through conversations Amara wasn't meant to hear. That evening, Amara sat alone in her room again, but this time she wasn't scrolling through pictures. She was thinking through moments, the jokes, the subtle comments, the repeated mentions of her new life. Wasn't random, it was consistent. And for the first time, Amara asked herself a question she hadn't wanted to face before. Had she actually changed in a way that made Kemi feel this way? She didn't rush to answer it, because part of her knew the truth wasn't simple. Yes, her life had changed. Yes, she had less time. Yes, she had grown into something different, but she had tried, she had made effort, she hadn't abandoned the friendship. So why did it feel like she was being spoken about as if she had? The next time they saw each other, things felt normal again, too normal. They sat together talking about random things. Kemi laughed easily like always. She even shared a story about something funny that happened at work. At some point, she said, "You should come out with us this weekend. Some of my friends are planning something." Looked at her. "Us?" "Yeah," Kemi said. "Me, Tolu, and a few others." Amara held her gaze for a second, then nodded slowly. "All right." Wasn't hesitation, it was awareness. Because now she wasn't just showing up as a friend. She was showing up knowing there was something unspoken sitting between them. That weekend, they met at a small lounge. The atmosphere was relaxed. Music low, people talking, lights dim but warm. Kemi seemed comfortable. More than usual, she moved easily between conversations, laughing, engaging, introducing Amara to others. Tolu was there too. He greeted Amara normally, nothing unusual in his tone. But as the evening went on, Amara noticed something. Kemi and Tolu had their own rhythm now. Inside jokes, side conversations, moments that didn't include her. Again, nothing wrong with it, just noticeable. At some point, Amara stepped aside, standing near the edge of the space, watching without making it obvious. She wasn't upset, she wasn't even surprised, she was just seeing things clearly. And the clarity didn't come with anger. It came with a quiet realization that maybe the distance between them didn't come from one big moment. It came from two people changing in different directions. While still trying to act like nothing had shifted, Amara didn't confront Kemi that night. She didn't see the point in forcing a conversation in the middle of noise and distractions. So she stayed a little longer, participated when necessary, smiled when spoken to, and left earlier than the rest. When she got home, she didn't feel angry. Just clear. For the first time, she wasn't trying to fix anything in her head. She wasn't trying to defend herself either. She could see both sides now, even if it didn't feel comfortable. The next day, she texted Kemi. "Can we talk later today?" Kemi replied almost immediately. "Yeah, sure." That evening, they met at a quiet spot they both knew well. Not too crowded, not too empty. Familiar enough to feel safe. For a few minutes, they spoke about normal things. Work, traffic, random updates. It was the usual pattern, ease before depth. Then Amara leaned back slightly and looked at her. "I heard you talking to Tulu the other day." Kemi's expression shifted, not dramatically, just a small pause, a slight stillness. "Oh," she said. There was no denial, no quick defense, just that one word. Amara continued, her voice calm. "You said I don't realize how I come across, that everything is about my life now." Kemi looked down briefly, then back up. "I didn't think you heard that." "I wasn't supposed to," Amara replied. "But I did." Settled between them, not heavy, just honest. Kemi exhaled slowly. "I wasn't trying to talk behind your back." Didn't interrupt. "I just didn't know how to say it to you directly," Kemi added. That part made sense, not because it justified it, but because it explained it. Amara nodded slightly. "So you feel like I changed?" Kemi gave a small, almost tired smile. "You did." Was no accusation in her tone, just truth. "And it's not even a bad thing," she continued. "You're growing, you're doing well, everyone can see that." She paused. "It started to feel like I didn't fit into that version of your life anymore." Listened without rushing to respond. Kemi leaned forward slightly, her voice softer now. "You still show up, you still call, I know that, but it feels different, like I'm trying to catch up to a version of you that has already moved ahead." Because this time she wasn't trying to defend herself, she was trying to understand. "I didn't know you felt that way," she said quietly. "I know," Kemi replied. "That's the problem." Was no tension in her voice now, just openness. Amara looked at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "But you also started pulling away." Kemi didn't argue. "I think I did," she admitted. "Not intentionally. I just didn't know where I fit anymore." That word again, fit. Amara leaned forward slightly. "So instead of saying it, you just adjusted." Kemi gave a small nod. "Yeah." "Talking to Tulu?" Amara asked, her tone still calm. Kemi hesitated for a second. "That wasn't about replacing you." "I didn't say it was," Amara replied. "I know," Kemi said, "but I can see how it looks." Was a brief silence. Then Kemi added, "It was just easier to talk to someone who didn't already have expectations of who I used to be." That landed differently, not painful, just real. Amara sat back, taking that in. For the first time since everything started shifting, the situation didn't feel confusing anymore. It felt human. Two people, same history, different directions, trying to hold on without knowing how. "I thought you were trying to make me look bad," Amara said after a while. Kemi shook her head immediately. "No, never that." "I thought you were slowly replacing me," Amara added. Kemi's expression softened. "I wasn't replacing you," she paused. "I was just trying not to feel left behind." That sentence settled between them in a way nothing else had, not sharp, not defensive, just honest. Amara exhaled quietly, because now everything made sense. The comments, the tone, the distance. It wasn't about dislike, it was about adjustment, and neither of them had handled it perfectly. They sat there for a while after that, not rushing to fix everything, not pretending things would instantly go back to how they used to be, but something had shifted, not the friendship itself, but the understanding of it. Over the next few weeks, things didn't become perfect, but they became more honest. Kemi spoke more openly when she felt left out. Amara made adjustments, not out of pressure, but out of awareness. And slowly they found a new rhythm, not the same as before, but real. Because sometimes relationships don't break from one big moment. They shift quietly, until someone is willing to finally say what they've been feeling all along. And sometimes, what feels like betrayal is just someone trying to deal with emotions they didn't know how to express. Sometimes, What we feel isn't always the full truth, it's just where we are emotionally. What would you have done?